Hello, everybody. I'm Rafer Weigel with Anchors Away. Today, I'm talking with David Eldridge, the CEO of 3radical, an audience engagement company. David, thank you for joining me today.
Pleased to be here.
David, there's been a lot of changes in terms of consumer protections, as you know. First and foremost, what does this mean for the average consumer in terms of how companies market to them?
The fundamental change that's underpinning all of the things that are happening, whether it's to do with consumers or marketers or different stakeholders in this whole data ecosystem, is that people are beginning to realize that an individual's data belongs to that individual. It doesn't belong to the brand that have collected it when you went to the website or to the social network that's been observing what you've been doing and so on. It actually belongs to that individual. And that individual is starting to get rights over who can collect their data, what they can use that data for, how long they can store it. So for the individual consumer, I think what's changing is that they can exercise that control. They can decide which brands they trust with their data, which brands give them a value in return for them handing over that data, if you like, and they can keep that under review.
What does this mean for digital marketing companies going forward? A lot of these companies, they rely on obtaining consumer information, consumer data. Is this going to change the way that companies market to consumers?
It's a total about turn in how brands should think about data. So in the past, they've been gathering as much data as they possibly can, amalgamating it, putting it together and trying to use it to deliver maybe some kind of personalized experience. There's been a lot of challenges with that, inaccurate data leading to inaccurate personalization, misreading an individual's preferences and intent, meaning that they actually upset or bother that individual by the way that they've been using that data, maybe using data that the individual never knew that they'd given. And that's got to stop. And I believe what organizations have got to do is start building relationships and collaborating with individual consumers on their data. They've got to ask them, what do you want us to do with your data? What data will you trust us with today in return for this value exchange, for us to providing you a better experience?
So when you talk about building trust, how do companies do that?
They've got to be trustworthy with an individual's data. That's at the heart of it. So they've got to be very transparent about the data they're collecting, what consents they're asking for, how they're going to use it. They've got to explain up front what value they're going to give in return, and then they're going to have to deliver that value, and they're going to have to look after that data. So not sell it to other people, not have it hacked from their servers and put on the dark web. They've got to be really very conscious of data security as well.
When I was talking with Michael Fisher from 3radical, we talked about storytelling. And is that going to be a new paradigm or a paradigm shift for digital marketing companies? And he felt that it would be a significant thing for companies to employ. How do you feel about that?
You've got to take the consumer or the individual on the journey with you. They've got to understand what's in it for them. They've got to understand the value that they're going to get from the relationship that they have with the brand, for them to give up data, for them to have that engagement. So absolutely, I think storytelling is at the heart of that. And the different ways that you can engage with the consumer in that message and that story are absolutely critical.
As far as how you engage the consumer, how would that be done?
It's got to be done on their terms. Digital communication is one way you get scale. So I think it's about inviting the consumer to engage, asking them how they want to engage, and then delivering on that, rather than pushing at the consumer all of the time and expecting them to respond. And I think that's kind of another clear change that's absolutely happening. Invitational marketing.
So do you feel that companies, in order to do that, to engage what you're describing as a dialogue, will they need to pull the curtain back a little bit and expose or reveal who they are as a company, their philosophy, their ideals, what they stand for?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a huge movement, I think, around the world, which has only been accelerated by the current COVID situation that we find. where brands need to demonstrate as part of their relationship with the consumer actually what they stand for, what their relationship is with their other stakeholders.
Let's talk about the Department of Justice investigating Google. Politico is reporting that they are expected to file charges against the search giant. What does this mean for the landscape going forward in terms of gathering information from consumers?
The channels and huge advertising and marketing giants like Google have really, underpinned a lot of this audience targeting that's been going on so far. There's a huge backlash against that. People following you around or being seen to follow you around on the internet and advertising products and services across different channels that you didn't realize would have that data and so on. And I think that a lot of the movements that we're seeing generally from consumers owning their own data rather than brands thinking they own that data on those consumers, is really going to force some changes. We've already seen Google say that they're stopping third-party cookies in Chrome, that they're moving to a kind of a different sandbox environment. At the same time, I think brands are looking at that and saying, well, hang on, do I want to give all of my data to Google for them to use, but kind of get nothing back? No, actually, maybe I want to move more towards having a direct relationship with the consumer myself, working out ways to achieve that and building that virtuous circle of, as I say, data, value exchange, and trust.
David Eldridge, CEO of 3radical. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.